Magnus Nilsson. Wonderful to meet you.
You too, thanks.
So first of all, if you could set the scene for us, tell us about the environment that your restaurant, Faviken, is located in.
First of all, it's very far from almost everything. It's located 650 kilometers north of Stockholm in the Scandinavian mountain range between Sweden and Norway. And it's located on a very old farm, so that the restaurant is actually built in the old grain store from the farm, building from 1745.
So, and in the forest surrounding, this is where you go and get a lot of your ingredients, is that right? What do you go and look for, and what do you hunt for?
It depends on the season. And right now, actually, it's bird season, so we have all game birds. It's perfect right now, like grouse, black grouse, capercaillie, woodcock, pigeon, all of those. And then later, moose hunting starts. And then after that, when winter comes, we might continue with a few of the game birds, like capercaillie and black grouse. And then hunting season stops, and another season takes its place, like ice fishing season, and we continue into foraging for wild herbs in the spring and such.
So you do all the hunting and foraging?
Not all of it. I like to do it, but I don't do all of it.
Where did you learn, okay, this herb or this wild berry is delicious and edible, and this animal cooks up beautifully, those don't? How did you learn the difference?
It's a part of our cultural heritage up there. I've been going with my parents to hunt since I was a little kid. I spent a lot of time in the forest.
So you grew up knowing that the forest held all these things. You grew up not like most kids thinking food comes from the supermarket. What was it like to have that sort of education?
I never thought about it, back then. I never thought about it being anything in particular. I just realized that when I was maybe 18 or 20 years old, when I moved away from my region, and actually when I got back to my parents for holidays, for Christmas and things like that, I started to realize the difference from what other people had.
As you mentioned, this is a long way from even the main areas of Sweden.
Yeah.
What do you think it is that drives people or makes people drive so far, other than the quality of the food, of the satisfaction of the food? What do they get from this experience that makes them travel so far?
I think it's a combination of different things, actually. First is, of course, the setting, which is, even in Sweden, is quite unique because it's a very, very large privately owned estate. And it's a beautiful nature, and in the middle of this there is this old, very, very nicely restorated farm, which we do the restaurant in. And also I think maybe the produce is, even for Scandinavia, is pretty unique, the produce that we use for the food. I think those two things in common or together is what makes the experience of Faviken a bit special.
Is it also that they are feeling, maybe knowing that the chef has helped hunt and forage and collect the food, does it somehow, therefore, it's not only great in the mouth, it's great for the soul, that it connects them with nature?
For some people, I'm sure that that also adds on to the experience. I don't think it's like that for everyone.
What about for fussy eaters? Because everyone eats the same thing. You set the menu, everyone eats at the same time.
Yes.
So if you have on your menu, for example, as you sometimes do, a crust of dried pig's blood, or fried or crispy lichen, how do you convince someone, or is any convincing needed where you say, like a mother, you've got to eat that?
It's actually rarely a problem, because the people who come visit us, either they don't know where they're going at all and they don't know what to eat beforehand, so they just eat stuff and then they realize it's pretty good afterwards. Or they are very, very well motivated because they read a lot of articles or seen something on the television or heard all about it, and they're coming to us because they really want to experience what we want to give them. So that's basically never a problem, actually.
I suspect part of what you give them is, to use your term, personality of cuisine. And this big word, personality, and I think you also use a Swedish word or a dialect where you call it rätten food, real food.
Exactly.
When you talk about personality and real food, what do you mean about personality?
First of all, I think often today when you go to really good restaurants all over the world, it's strikingly how similar they seem to be to each other, at least many of them, And for me, it's I think it would be nice if more people just had a look at their surrounding and the possibilities that they have around them, and then made the most of that. instead of just looking on what their competitors or the other restaurants in their region is doing. That's for me something very important, to make a personal style and a personal take on cooking. Because I think it can never be genuine otherwise. It can never be genuinely an interesting experience. It can be very, very good and very accomplished, but if you don't do it from your heart, it will never be a genuine experience.
Before I ask you about the personality of Australian food, what your preconceptions are, let's try an oyster. Would you care to have an oyster?
Yeah, sure.
When part of the personality, this whole trend these days where, say, with something as simple, that's the way to do it, don't need a fork, do we? With something like an oyster, where it's very simple, but there seems to be a whole trend at the moment where people are breaking down the compounds of the food, the very essence of the food, and spinning it into sorbet or into foam or something. Is this science overtaking the art of cuisine?
No, I don't think so. And many people, because they might have heard of us and they might have heard me say things that I did just a few minutes ago, they think that I'm completely against everything like that. But I'm not. What I'm saying is that I think that people should focus on what they know and to do the most of their possibilities and their knowledge. And I think it's very nice that people do sorbets with oysters, but it's not something that I want to do, because I want to eat my oysters just like this, but I want it to be perfect quality and perfect size and perfect freshness. So, and if it has those characteristics, I just want to eat it.
So, with your emphasis on personality of food, personality for your food coming from a very distinct region around your restaurant. Now you're on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Different personality with this food. How are you going to show folks here with these ingredients what you do?
I'm not going to try to do recreate any Fäviken dishes. I'm going to work only with really good Australian produce, and I'm going to cook something nice with it. I'm going to use a few different Australian products, or actually quite a lot of different Australian products, and I haven't really decided on what to do with them yet. I have to see them first, and I have to feel them and understand them before I start cooking. And I think that even if it's not dishes that has been done before at the restaurant, because the produce is completely different, it's my style and my kind of cooking is still, I think it can still be applied to different other produce. Maybe it will be different in terms of it won't be as fine-tuned and like maybe as balanced as at home, because it's the first time I cook with almost every product. Actually, this is the first time I cook with.
So you won't be going hunting for the meat or diving into this harbour to collect the fish?
I won't. Someone else has already done that.
Done all the hard, well, not the hard work.
I'm going out foraging Monday.
Yeah, where?
I don't know. I haven't organized it myself. It's Mark Best in the restaurant who's organized something for Monday.
From all we've been talking about, is food like a language where there are some crossovers with dishes, but it's all rather distinct to regions and nations, or is food like music where you can mix a bit of this, bit of that and come up with something harmonious?
Yeah, I'm sure you can, and it depends on what style your restaurant has and all that, but for me, I never really think about whether I mix techniques, or I consider myself as having a pretty good idea about how to cook, and I consider myself mastering my techniques pretty well. So I never think about those things. I just put a lot of effort into finding the perfect products, and then I try to treat it in a very respectful way and cook it in a very simple way, present it in an even simpler way, and yeah, that's it.
And bon appetit, or whatever they've said in Sweden.
Exactly.
Magnus Nilsson, it's been great talking with you.
Nice talking to you.
Thank you very much, and enjoy your stay here. Happy foraging.
Thank you so much.